I just wanted to make a couple of comments very briefly here about the Song of Solomon now that we've read through the whole thing. It is very weird. Most of it uses language that is not common, and I would say not normal, for the modern day. So it just sounds weird. More so than anything else in the scriptures. You know, breasts like 2 rows, teeth like evenly, like a flock of sheep evenly shorn, hair like goats. These things are just not... I don't think I know any woman in the modern day who would be flattered if you told her her breasts looked like 2 young deer. So, and I don't know any man who would be all that flattered if you told him that his legs were like marble pillars. These just aren't things that would be flattering in the modern day. But there has been, a lot of people have tried to get a unified thing. The theory, there are a couple of theories, explanations that they say that this doesn't seem to have a set pattern or set flow to it. And in some ways you can I kind of understand that. It does kind of jump around a bit. But there's a definite unifying theme, in my opinion, and that is the excesses of passion. And there are some that have theorized this is actually based on ancient fertility rites of pagan religions in the Middle East. That they would do these kind of, and it wouldn't just be a poem, it would be kind of a production. You would act it out to a certain extent. As a fertility rite, as you are getting ready to do your religious ceremonies for your pagan gods, you would do similar things to this. That is, they've talked about there are similar things in Egypt, in the Middle East. There are even some similar things to some Greek stuff going on in the 3rd century. So there is some similarities there, and people have speculated that that's what this is. And to a certain extent, I kind of agree with them. It is, I think, that the Song of Solomon is a play. Now, it's not a play like Job, which is done as a dialogue, where you have Job talks, and then his friend talks, and then Job talks, and it's kind of go back and forth. We do have a kind of a dialogue here, and we still can see what I would call a influence of like the Greek chorus line in the Daughters of Zion when they replied back. But I could definitely see this being people on stage reciting this with actual sets. I'm not talking about a complex play like we do today, where we have all the sets and you're moving around, but more like what they would have had back in ancient Greece, where you're not really moving around stage, you're standing there, you're reciting your lines, and you might move around a little bit, you might hold hands to emphasize a certain point, but it was more a recital in costume. And then that's the best way, a recital of poetry while in costume. And I could definitely see that being the case, that this was written. And there are just certain things in here that indicate to me that it wasn't written by Solomon or even during the time of Solomon, because of the way they talk about Solomon, especially at the end there, where it talks about, Solomon had his garden, he did all this, but I have my garden. This comparison here. It doesn't make sense to me that this is written by, well, I mean, it could be, but I think it was written much later. There's speculation that it was written as late as like the 2nd century BC. I don't think it was written that late, but I think it was written later. And so it's just it's a weird poem. It's a weird romantic, somewhat erotic poem that, in a sense, teaches the moral lesson of avoiding an excess of passion. It is clear that the 2 lovers are not married. They are sneaking around in an affair. She mentions as that when she's put over the other women to protect their gardens, but doesn't protect her own. In other words, she's keeping them from getting into sexual immorality, at the same time falling into sexual immorality herself. Eventually, the affair is discovered. They are separated. Now, it's a weird thing, and I don't want to get into too much detail on it, but that's what I think this really is. It's just it's a play. That is, it would be what we would term today a morality play. But it's not scripture. It's not inspired from God. It is just one man's, or it could be multiple writers, writing this morality play. Anyways, I will leave that here. And as I said, we are moving back into the history, so see you in the next video.